It has been 2 years since Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer released, which is just crazy to think about. Like everyone, I was absolutely blown away by what Christopher Nolan managed to do, giving us a story with complex characters around a man who ruled the world, with themes so haunting it just stayed with me long after the credits rolled. So given we are a year away from Nolan's next film, The Odyssey, hitting theaters, I thought, what better time to revisit Oppenheimer than right now, to see what my thoughts were upon rewatch. So let's dive into the story, the characters, and direction to see if Oppenheimer is still as much of a masterpiece as it was 2 years later. The story of this film is something that ages so well. The film's premise revolves around J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb. It follows his life story from his time in school to building the bomb and what comes after. One thing I completely forgot about was this film is non-linear. You basically split it up into 3 stories based on what we mentioned. The film starts as a courtroom drama and then shows his early life, but as the film goes on, we see how they built the atomic bomb. With that non-linear storyline, you deal a lot in perspective. We switch headspaces from Oppenheimer to other characters. Nolan has done this in the past, whether it's through films like Memento or Inception. Here, it's mainly done through characters like Oppenheimer and Strauss. It's used to great effect. It helps us connect with the story even more, but with each part, they detail everything that makes it so good. It's a film that deals with many things along the journey. It focuses on the ramifications of the bomb, what happens during the making, but also what comes after. It's a film that makes you question things and think about it long after the credits roll. If a film has a story so good and so memorable that I can't stop thinking about it, that is simply the crux of a great story. It's a story that makes you feel so much dread, especially as we are in the aftermath of Oppenheimer today. Christopher Nolan truly delivered something special. What he does with his films just makes him one of the best working directors today. If this film alone doesn't make you want to watch it again, I don't know what to say. If you're not thinking about it long after credits roll, I don't know what to say. Now, comparing it to his other work, there is a whole lot of action among the complex storytelling. This is the exact opposite. There is no action. It's just a story about these people at this time, demonstrating deep moral questions that make you think about it. Not only did he show the good of the Manhattan Project, but also the sin. The sound just also stands out here. Now, at times in Nolan's films, this can be an issue. Before Oppenheimer, his last film was Tenet, and at times, you can't even hear the characters speak. This is present, but doesn't become as bad as Tenet or even The Dark Knight Rises. The way he directs this film is just spectacular, using great practicality to great use. I actually noticed upon research that they created the bomb images with a water tank. I think that is just awesome. What Nolan does here, I would argue, is on par with The Dark Knight and Interstellar. Both are some of my favorites of his. He just delivers an epic thriller that is layered in so much complexity that makes his style work so well. But let's get into the details of Oppenheimer. So given the nature of this film, I'm not going to go into this from the order of the events, so we are going to detail it from the moment of Oppenheimer's life, starting off with his early life growing up. One thing I actually loved is the opening scene, because it details not only where he's going, but where he will end up, with just drops, showcasing a good visual imagery of real-life atomic bombs as Oppenheimer is in school and looks terrified. What Cillian Murphy brought to this role was honestly incredible. So many years of just being a side character in Nolan's work. Now he finally gets to lead, and he nailed it, showcasing a side of vulnerability, trauma, guilt, and complexity that was needed. He truly earned that Oscar, not just him, but everyone involved as well. In his early years as a student, he was very homesick. He was breaking equipment and not really knowing what to do. He's studying quantum physics abroad, often clashing with his professor, who at times can be very stern. He even left a poisoned apple for him. That scene in particular really bugs me. Yes, he did make sure he didn't eat it, but this scene just felt out of place. I don't know if it was there to show how Oppenheimer isn't a perfect person but is very flawed. The payoff just isn't really there. The scene where Oppenheimer meets Niels Bohr, played by Kenneth Branagh, was great. It was important as this led to where Oppenheimer goes to Germany to study, but also leads to one of the best scenes in the entire film.
Can you hear the music, Robert?
This whole scene just showcasing visual imagery of bombs going off, but also seeing Oppenheimer doing nothing but studying is genius. It shows us how the mathematics and physics went into the play with the bomb. Ludwig Göransson, who did the music here, killed it. He didn't win an Oscar for no reason. Nolan didn't know what he wanted the music to be, just violins, and yeah, it is very effective. It shows everything you need to know about this film without a word being said. Anyway, we see Oppenheimer go off to teach in Germany. He later meets two scientists. The first is Isord Isaac Rabi, I probably butchered that, sorry, played by David Krumholtz, who he meets on the train ride. The other is Werner Heisenberg, who is in Switzerland. They are very different, but want to expand their research in the US. They go to work at two places, the University of California, Berkeley, and the California Institute of Technology. Next door is Ernst Lawrence, played by Josh Hartnett. He is a Nobel Prize winning physicist. At the start, the classes start small, but as time goes on, they grow bigger and bigger. Later on, Oppenheimer goes to a party with his brother. It's here where we meet Florence Pugh's character Jean Tatlock, who is a communist and becomes Oppenheimer's first love interest, showing us a side to him we didn't expect. Now, as much as I praise this film, I must admit the scenes where Jean and Oppenheimer get it on, I am very mixed on. I'm not someone who's against scenes like this, if they make sense for the story. But many of them, at times, just do not fit the narrative being told. The first one makes sense for the story in the sense of what it means going forward. This scene where Oppenheimer says, "Now I have become the destroyer of worlds," is perfect, as it shows us not only who Oppenheimer is, but who he will become. But then the courtroom scene just doesn't add up. But like I said, this film gets enough right that I can let small things like this slide. Outside of that though, this relationship is actually pretty great narratively. It shows us a side of Oppenheimer that is lighter and more loose, but also Florence Pugh just kills it even in the small amount she has. She was great overall. But then the biggest scene of his early life happens. While he is on a walk with Jean, he sees one of his colleagues running out. He finds out that a nuclear fusion was achieved due to a chemical reaction splitting the atom. This makes Oppenheimer question everything he has done, even doing an equation and coming to the conclusion it's not possible. Then when he sees someone prove it and shows him how it happened, he knows exactly what it meant. The creation of a bomb, which leads us into the next part of his life. At this point in the film, we got to the part where the Manhattan Project begins. We see Leslie Groves, played by Matt Damon, come in to meet with Oppenheimer. The two have a conversation about the bomb, and before you know it, Oppenheimer agrees to join the Manhattan Project. With this film specifically, it is a very heavy watch. You have dreadful themes that just stick with you long after the credits roll, but with Matt Damon's character, he is one that actually adds a bit of levity to the film in a way. However, he still remains cautious and serious about what is going on. He knows just how important this mission is to the world. There is a great scene in this film when they are recruiting scientists for the Manhattan Project. When one of them asks why they should go in the middle of nowhere to create a bomb for an unknown amount of time, he literally says because it's the most important thing to ever happen in the history of the world. This is actually true, as we are witnessing the most important thing ever, for better or worse. It shows so much gravitas from Matt Damon, and now he's leading his own Nolan film, just like Murphy did. So well deserved. Anyway, we see Oppenheimer and multiple scientists go to a remote facility. This is called Los Alamos. It's located in New Mexico, and families move there so they can work on this in secret. Some scientists doubt it can work, but they all go along with it. During one of the first meetings, one scientist, Teller, played by Benny Safdie, brings up a flaw. He did some calculations and found out that the bomb could potentially destroy the world. He also keeps bringing up the potential for a hydrogen bomb. The scientist denies his idea, but he keeps pushing for it regardless of what people say. To find out for sure, Oppenheimer talks with Einstein to make sure this is the case. He tells them that there is a chance it can destroy the world, which becomes really important later on, but he decides the chances are near zero. He heads back with this in mind, ready to get started. In the meantime, there are some really great scenes, like Oppie going to Jean one last time, Oppenheimer grieving over her death, Teller storming off, leaving to see the test bomb, even Oppenheimer accidentally going to talk with Boris Pash, who is played by Casey Affleck. All of these scenes are really important despite having little screen time. This is something I love about this movie. Despite how much happens, it feels earned. It takes its time to tell its story, leaving the small moments sit with us, like small conversations or even putting marbles in a jar. There's so much to pick apart just from all of this alone. In this time, we also see a Christmas party thrown by Groves, who even brought Niels Bohr in. It's here where he and Oppenheimer have a great scene about the bomb. He doesn't want to talk about what is happening now, he wants to talk about what will come. Oppenheimer is about to bring in a weapon so powerful it can destroy the world. The world is not close to ready, but they have no choice. Now it is finally time to test the bomb. Before they do, they have some talks with some military and how this can end the war. They all agree on what is about to happen and begin the first test. We see scientists preparing for the bomb test. They get sunglasses protection so they don't see the ultraviolet rays from the bomb. Oppie even tells Kitty to put the sheets in and will tell her to bring them out when it's a success. Then the detonation happens and it works. Not a single word, just pure visual storytelling, showing us how the characters witnessed such a historical event. It was really when Oppenheimer took off his glasses where he really took it in. He was in utter shock that it worked. What's really interesting about this scene is Christopher Nolan recreated the bomb test. Nolan is a realist and doesn't use CG. For example, they actually blew up a plane in Tenet. Talking about recreating the bomb, Nolan said, "I find CG rarely able to grab you. It tends to feel safe. Even if it's impressive and beautiful, it's difficult to make you feel danger. And we were presenting the ultimate danger. We needed it to feel threatening, nasty, and frightening to the audience." Special effects supervisor Scott R. Fisher works like crazy to make the bomb test. They talked to Nolan about ways to make it happen. They used classic old Hollywood forced perspectives, which is a technique used in many films like Lord of the Rings. It is used to manipulate human perspective into thinking an object is big or small is a lot closer, which is exactly what the bomb does. They use materials like pyrotechnics such as gasoline and propane, along with materials like aluminum powder and magnesium to add an instant flash. The visualization was a tough task, but they found an accurate way to make it happen. It is truly extraordinary that they pulled it off. Nolan truly upped his game with this one. Since the bomb now works, we are in the aftermath of it all. The scientists are celebrating and Oppenheimer tells Kitty to bring the sheets in. But then Harry S. Truman sends the bomb onto Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which leads to Japan surrendering from the war. Now they live in peace and fear, knowing the weapon works. The scene where Jack Quaid's character reacts to this describes it perfectly. He looks in both terror and success that the creation worked. He then shakes his hand with one of the scientists. Not a word is said, but you can piece it together visually. Oppenheimer then brings in all the people from the town over to give a speech. We see how he is haunted by his creation. He talks and raves about what they have done for the world, but that's not all we see. He starts seeing visions of them all dead, with sequences that are more scary than an actual horror movie. It's terrifying, it's dreadful. While their war has ended, Oppenheimer's is just beginning. You see, beforehand, he thought this could end all wars, specifically the Pacific War to save lives. But he didn't think about what would come after the creation of the bomb. What comes after creating such a powerful weapon, the good and the bad. It's why his conversations with both Einstein and Niels Bohr are so important, showcasing the burden he carries that no one deserves to carry. He then goes to meet with Truman and tells him his concerns about nuclear weapons and how they shouldn't be used. He also says he feels the blame for what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Truman goes that they don't care who made it, they care who dropped it, or something along those lines. He refuses his plea to stop nuclear weapon use and Oppenheimer leaves, going on into the next phase of his life. So now that we have covered both parts of Oppenheimer's life, we are taking a time jump into a different stage. It has been a few years since the creation of the atomic bomb. Oppenheimer is now an advisor for the Atomic Energy Commission, but he is still thinking of the issues with the atomic bomb. Earlier I talked about how perspective is really important to this film. Well, it's here where it is front and center. We see these characters flip constantly to see what they are thinking, good and bad, but also to understand who they are during each moment in time. At this point, we have seen Teller's hydrogen bomb interest become more available, as we are now at the point where the Cold War happens. This of course makes many people from the Manhattan Project not like him. We will see more of this later on. It's here where Lewis Strauss is introduced, played by Robert Downey Jr., who is an ACE chairman. Like everyone else, RDJ earned that Oscar win. He plays this all-time hater to a T, but also this really smart and politician side of this character really well. Admiral Strauss has a big hatred towards Oppenheimer. When the Soviets made a bomb, a meeting happened. Everyone was arguing to see how they would handle it in a raw dialogue scene. They disagree on how to handle it. Then there was a joke made during a courtroom session. Finally, there was an out-of-context conversation between Oppie and Einstein, leading to him having a hatred for Oppenheimer. Reverse Flash would be proud of him. There is a scene where Strauss really shows his hatred and how much he despises Oppenheimer, bringing out a monologue after going through a courtroom session. It's here where RDJ really shines as an actor. His face is pure hatred and petty behavior. I absolutely love it. The way he brought this person to life was excellent. Now, one thing I really like about this part is the way it's shot. The rest of the film is shot in black and white film. It looks so good. I was wondering how they would handle this and if it would be in the entire film, and if it was, I would sit through it all day because it just looks incredible. Hoyt van Hoytema, who worked on Nolan's films since Interstellar, came back for this film. Not only did he crush it, but all of his shots in this film are some of his best work yet, whether it's in black and white or in color. Nolan is one of the few filmmakers today still using film cameras. He shoots this film in a 70mm IMAX film and it just looks stunning. Whether it's small things like Oppenheimer talking with his colleagues or the bomb going off, there's just so much to dive into just from great shots of this film. Anyway, we see Strauss orchestrating a plan to get rid of Oppenheimer. He made a plan with two people, along with a few lawyers in the film, so they can get rid of his security clearance. A secret courtroom session commences. Oppenheimer's hearing is in a room with people questioning his past. Mainly through his past communist ties, as like what he did with Gene. There is one scene that really gets intense and shows so much terror. Oppenheimer's dialogue is minimal, but the visuals say it all. It's really this that sets his life back. Many people in his life do give their stance. The two biggest ones for me are Teller and Groves. Teller is the one who really seals his fate, but Groves is a bit of both. He said he wouldn't give clearance to him today, but he wouldn't give clearance to anyone, showing a lack of bias. His verdict is he doesn't get his clearance approved. Even though his allegiance to America isn't in question, this was because Kitty defended him like crazy, leading to the court going in Oppenheimer's favor. After Kitty's testimony went really well, but in the end, it still meant nothing. This in turn ruined Oppie's public image despite what he did for the world. One thing I love about this film is actually the cast. As with all of Nolan's films, the cast is stacked. Whenever a Christopher Nolan film is coming, all the agencies are trying to get their talent into his films. Every time they get big names and some appear for a matter of seconds. Here we have Academy Award winners just on screen for minutes. Take Rami Malek's character David L. Hill, which at some point Strauss is in the middle of a trial. Malek's character appears in a few scenes at a hotel and one testifying against Strauss, believing that he was trying to get rid of Oppenheimer. It doesn't do anything, but it's just so interesting that Rami did this. He just came off of playing Freddie Mercury in a James Bond villain, yet he decided to show up for a matter of minutes. He was just happy to be there and work with Christopher Nolan. We have reached the end of the film. We go years later to see Oppenheimer being rewarded the Enrico Fermi Award. He shakes multiple people's hands, including Teller, but Kitty doesn't shake his hand. I find this interesting because Teller apparently went home crying because of it. I left one important part out of my analysis that begins when Oppenheimer and Strauss meet. We see him show him around the house and then see how they act around each other. They had a very respectful conversation together. It shows exactly where they were, then to where they would become, and it shows just how different they were. It's here where my favorite scene happens in the entire film. We see what really happened between him and Einstein. They had a conversation before ending it with Oppenheimer bringing up something. He talked about how they could destroy the world with a bomb, only to say, "I believe we did." And we then cut to Oppenheimer in a pilot seat, dropping a bomb, only to see the Earth covered in nuclear war. And then the movie cuts to black and ends. The ending is so terrifying, not only because of its meaning, but where we are now. As we live in the time where nuclear war is all over the headlines. We aren't in the time where it started. We are in the aftermath. Now seeing Oppenheimer's headspace, and it just makes it even more haunting. Oppenheimer as a whole is exactly that. Haunting. It's a story that truly makes you think about what you just watched. To look at the world around you and see how it has affected us. All the good and all the bad. If this film wasn't something special, then the reception in box office would be really different. Christopher Nolan truly outdid himself with this film, delivering a film layered in great performances and complexity around a man who carries a burden so heavy it would make any of us go insane. For his standards, it's truly one of his best. So to bring it all home, Oppenheimer is still as much of a masterpiece as it was in 2023, delivering such a great story around a historical event in an extraordinary time, messages that stick with you long after credits roll, music that is stellar, giving us one of, if not Christopher Nolan's best films to date.